What's up guys, Jesse here. So I've been using the Galaxy Z Fold 2 as my main daily driver phone for the past 3 months since it came out. And let me tell you guys, when I first saw this phone at the Galaxy Unpacked event, I was so excited to get it in hand and try it out because, well, it felt like they took everything that was wrong with the original Fold and fixed it and then added a couple features on top of that. So it seemed like pretty much the perfect foldable phone. And over the course of using this for the past 3 months as my main phone, my opinion on it has changed a lot. I went from loving it to hating it to loving it again. And now at the end of this 3-month period, I would say that if I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't get this phone. So this is probably going to be one of my last videos of my coverage on the Z Fold 2 because I recently picked up a Galaxy Note 20 Ultra to be my new daily driver phone. But just because the Z Fold 2 wasn't for me doesn't mean it won't be for you. So let's talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and why I'm switching. Now, if you guys want a more detailed review of this phone, then check out my full review already on the channel. I'll link it down below in the description. I go much more in depth than I will in this video. And if you guys want even more Z Fold 2 content, then check out my 1-month update video on this phone. You guys can kind of see how my thoughts have changed over the course of owning this phone when I just got it versus 1 month versus now 3 months later. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's talk about the Galaxy Z Fold 2, starting with the good parts. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is the design. Now, this is a very subjective area, but personally, I think that this is a very good looking phone. I feel like it has a really good mix of matte and shiny textures that just make it look and feel really premium. The matte glass back is probably the best feeling one that I've felt on any phone. I think Samsung just does a really good job with that. And honestly, there's just not a whole lot else to say other than I just really like how this thing looks. One thing to note about this color though, Mystic Bronze, is that under a lot of lighting conditions, it actually looks pink. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on, but basically if you look at this phone under any light that's cooler than daylight, which is to say on the bluer side, then it'll look pink. And if you look at anything daylight or warmer or more orange, it'll look bronze. Now, personally, I don't mind. I actually really like this color, but if you don't like pink, that is something to consider. So other than the scratches on the front, which are from an unintended drop test, this looks and feels the same as when I first got it. Now, I know that 3 months is not really all that long for a smartphone, and if it did have problems at this point, I would be very disappointed. But I think one of the biggest questions that people have with a new form factor like a folding phone is how is it going to hold up over time? And it makes sense. There's a lot more moving parts on this phone, and moving parts tend to fail. But all I can say at this point is after 3 months of use, it's holding up just fine. Even after a 3-foot fall onto concrete, it still opens and closes just fine. The hinge tension seems to be unaffected, and as a whole, the phone just works fine. There's just a little bit of cosmetic damage. Okay, that's all well and good, but let's talk about the reason you get this phone, the reason you get the Galaxy Z Fold 2. And that is, of course, the screen. And more specifically, the main screen. And to be totally honest, this screen is amazing. And I would go so far as to say this screen is the best screen that I've ever seen on any smartphone. Yes, it does have a crease, and yes, you can see it if you're looking for it. But if you're actually using the phone and just doing day-to-day activities or watching content, playing games, that kind of thing, you're really not going to notice that it's there. You will notice it a little bit more in brighter lit situations, or if you're viewing the screen off axis, but I would say in most situations, it's really not that bad. Now, of course, I would prefer no crease, but I think at this point in the game for right now, this is fine. And I feel like if you're thinking about getting this phone, but the only thing that's holding you back is that you think the crease is going to be too distracting, I would strongly encourage you just to not worry about it that much. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like this phone does have some deal breakers that make it not the best for everybody, but this isn't one of them. And once you get past the crease, the quality of the screen is fantastic. The colors look great, it's super sharp, and it's 120 Hz, which just makes everything look super smooth. This is pretty much the perfect smartphone screen, and there's not really a whole lot else I would ask for, except maybe a little bit more max brightness, but that's really it. And apart from just the sheer quality of the screen, it's just really nice to have such a large screen in your pocket available to you anywhere you go. And the screen having such thin bezels for such a large screen really makes for a very immersive experience. Like my iPad has a bigger screen than the Z Fold 2, but it also has thicker bezels, so I actually find the Z Fold 2 to be more immersive than the iPad. And all of those factors combined just make it so that if you can find a piece of content that fits the whole screen, then it really does look like a window into another world. It's really incredible. Samsung has a reputation of making the best smartphone screens, and this definitely holds up. And it's so good that I almost find it hard to enjoy other smartphone screens now. The speakers on this phone also get louder and sound fuller than pretty much any of the other smartphones I've tried. And I guess that's just one of the benefits of having such a large form factor for a phone, but it is still a phone speaker, and if you really care about sound, it's not really going to replace a proper speaker. One of the things that really surprised me about this phone though was flex mode. Now when I first heard about flex mode, I thought that it was just a gimmick and I would never use it. And I would say that for a lot of the functionality like flex mode in the camera or stuff like that, I rarely ever use it. But the way I found it to be the most useful was just to basically treat it as a built-in kickstand for your phone without having to install one of those pop sockets or get one of the cases with the kickstand, because I just really don't like those. It comes in super handy if I just want to watch a video and my hands are full, or if I want to set up a timer while I'm cooking or working out. So overall, I feel like the good parts about this phone, the parts that it gets right, it does better than pretty much any other phone out there. Like the great screen combined with the great speakers and flex mode make this pretty much the ultimate content consumption phone. And it really is like having a small tablet in your pocket. Like if you think about it, this main screen is 7.6 inches, and the iPad mini is 7.9, so it's actually really close. But there is a lot of stuff, like regular phone stuff, that this phone just kind of sucks at. So my first issue with this phone is the weight. This is a heavy phone. It's 882 grams. And it almost feels like you're carrying around two phones. Like it's not really that bad if you're just holding it in your hands and using it, but I feel like when you put it in your pocket, that's when you really start to feel the weight. Like especially in athletic shorts and pants, you just really feel the weight of the phone swinging around every time you take a step. And in some of my pants, I even had to make sure the drawstrings were tied in the pants so that they didn't fall down while I was walking. And it just makes this feel very brick-like, and it's kind of unpleasant to carry around. I also have a big issue with this front screen. It is just way too narrow. Like I've said this before, but the quality of the panel is fine. It gets plenty bright, it's sharp, good colors. I wish it was 120 Hz, but 60, it's fine. But the screen being so narrow just creates a ton of problems. Like the keyboard is tiny and I am constantly making typos on it. And after 3 months of use, I'm still not used to it. You can turn the phone sideways to make the keyboard bigger, but then the keyboard just takes up the entire screen. Videos come out to be very small with huge letterboxes, and just using the viewfinder on the camera app really sucks because it's so small it's hard to see what you're actually taking a picture of. And the narrowness of this front screen along with the wideness of the main screen leads me to my biggest issue and probably the deal breaker for this phone, for me at least, and its app compatibility. So the front screen, like I said, is super narrow and has an aspect ratio of 25:9. And just to be clear, like a widescreen movie cinematic shot is 21:9, so this is even more narrow than that. The main display is super wide with an aspect ratio of 22.5:18, so it's like almost a square. And while some apps use the screen real estate pretty well and like you would expect them to, a lot of apps just don't really know what to do with it. And I noticed this was particularly bad with social media apps like Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. So they will either like take up the entire screen like Facebook and you can scroll through regularly, but if somebody posts a particularly tall image, then you won't be able to view the entire thing in one frame. You're going to have to scroll to view the entire post. Or it'll basically do what Instagram does and give you big bars on the side. Now you can download GoodLock and choose between which one of these two you prefer, but either way you're compromising and there's no way to just get a solid good experience on these apps. And if you like to post screenshots on IG stories, then you can't. I mean, you can, but it's not going to look right. You either share a super wide screenshot from the main screen or you share a super narrow screenshot from the front screen. And either way, you're going to have to compromise by either cutting off some content or dealing with letterboxing. So it's just not ideal. Also with IG stories, in the past couple of weeks, I've had this kind of bug where it'll basically automatically pull up reactions when I go to stories, so I can't really just interact with them. And I've looked online and I know I'm not alone in this. And there is a temporary workaround where you can basically tap on messages and then just swipe away, but it's a workaround and it's really not ideal. And it's definitely not what you want when you drop $2,000 on a phone. Now, I feel like the scarier part about this issue is that you can't really expect them to fix it. Like, there's just not that many people who have folds compared to more traditional form factors. And from the app developer's perspective, they just don't really have an incentive to fix problems for this device if there's just not really that many people who have them. And this was the deal breaker for me because, well, I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel. I want to make an Instagram account. I want to do all this stuff. But if I'm using this phone, I really just kind of can't. So yeah, at the end of the day, if I had to do it again, I would not get the Galaxy Z Fold 2. Even though having such a large screen in your pocket is super nice, the compatibility issues just kind of ruin the experience of using this phone for everyday stuff. And even though the content consumption experience on this phone is pretty much unmatched, it's only a small percentage of what I do on a smartphone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do appreciate the idea of being able to unfold a phone and have a tablet. But I think for right now, with this phone at least, when you're forced to do phone stuff one-handed, you have to use the cover display. And like I said, the cover display just kind of sucks, and I really do hate using it. So I feel like if they made the whole device a little bit wider and thinner, then this would be a real winner. But as this device is right now, it just feels like you're giving up a lot to gain this new form factor. And because this form factor is still so niche, you can't really expect app developers to put in the time to make the software experience on this phone better. It's kind of the chicken and the egg problem where we need a lot of people to buy foldables for app developers to make better foldable apps. But you also need app developers to make better foldable apps for people to buy foldable phones. So I do hope that Samsung will continue to make better and better foldable phones because I do think that this form factor is here to stay. But until the whole chicken and the egg problem gets solved, I would pass on this one. Anyways, that's all for this one. If you guys still have any questions about the Z Fold 2, just leave it in the comment section down below and I'd be happy to answer it. Remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss it when I post the full review of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, and who knows, maybe a little versus between these two phones, I don't know. If you guys want to see it, leave a like. Until then though, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!